guys. Welcome to Real Talk, the Sunny podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about having game versus playing game. All right. So these are two different things completely, and I want to talk about it. Before I get to it, personal disclaimers. I'm not a professional astrologer or a professional psychologist. I'm just an enthusiast of astrology, tarot, psychology. I am a psychic. I get visions from spirit. I have my master's degree in communications, and I just enjoy talking about these types of things. So it's up to you guys if you guys want to continue listening. I don't want anybody triggering themselves at this point. So I feel like this is such an interesting topic because I feel like a lot of people don't look at it this way, or they do look at it this way and they don't realize they look at it this way. So there's a difference between having game, all right? And I'm strictly just going to talk about guys in this episode. You know, in future episodes, I'm sure I'll talk about women here, but we're not doing that here. So guys, having game, the guys who have game and the guys who are playing game. I feel like the guys who play game are the egotistical ones, the ones that are either narcissists or narcissistic-like traits. Okay, these are the ones that have really big fucking heads. Like, oh my God, the ones who live in imagination land, the ones who think they got it like that, you know, whatever. And I think to some degree, I think we should all have some type of ego like that, right? Because that ego really helps us. I know us as women, you know, like as much as like shit talking as we do about guys, trying to say like he thinks he has it like that. Well, so do we. I think sometimes we get, I don't want to say put in our place, but set back because of our own ego. And that's also something to think about. But again, this episode isn't for that. I think ego isn't always a bad thing. I just want to say that. Ego, if you really think about it, helps us. My ego has saved my ass get out of situations, you know? However, what I've realized about the guys who play game, they live in ego. This is what makes them either narcissists or narcissistic-like traits. Whereas women who use ego to help us, or use it in the times where it's really, you know, would be, I don't know, needed or well suited, it's like there's a difference, okay? We're using it in a smart way. I feel like guys, not all guys, want to be clear here, I'm talking about a specific brand, okay? The playing game brand. They like to live in imagination land 24/7. I think every now and then they get hit with reality. And, you know, what this would look like is them sitting on the sidewalk in their feelings, you know, like, you know, that kid, when it's like almost curfew and they got to go back home and they're just upset and their head is resting on their hand. Do you know, like, am I painting this picture properly where the boy is sitting on the curb and he's just upset? Maybe he didn't get his toy. Maybe I don't know, whatever. Anyway, maybe he didn't get the ice cream from the ice cream truck. Maybe he missed it, but everybody else did. That's the guy who gets hit with reality every now and then. Now, he doesn't live there all the time, but every now and then he gets a dose of fucking reality. And then he, you know, snaps out of it and goes back to imagination land, because imagination land is comfortable. It feels good because in imagination land, he's got a big fucking head and he's wanted by everybody. And it's like, this isn't real, you know? And the reason it's not real is because the majority of these guys are manipulating a woman to get them to the point of where these women are acting like, I want you, I need you, I love you, you're the it factor. It's like you had to lie and manipulate to these women to get her to that point. You couldn't just be yourself because you know being yourself won't get that energy. Does that make sense? That's why they're actually playing game. Like, they're playing a game. They're playing fucking Monopoly. You know what I mean? And when you go to the bathroom, it's their move, and they fucking cheated. They moved 2 places, you know, I don't know, closer to the finish line, and they didn't tell you. But you're both playing the same game, except one of you is playing a different version. One of you is cheating. So one of you is having an easier time with it. Does that make sense? I hope so. So the reason the player has an ego so big is because he really does potentially, maybe not, have these girls that treat him some kind of way, that maybe hit him up all the time, or, hey, how are you? I don't know, whatever this looks like. Because I'm sure we've been these girls too, because there's no way you guys have not been cheated on or played at some point in life. And the same goes for guys. Like, we're human. Like, hello. What they're failing to realize is that they created this fake scenario. And I'm not saying the intention was to make them feel masculine, make them feel bigger than, make them, I don't know, let's say they're the talker of their guy group, yeah, I got it like that. Or, yeah, Susie's calling me. Crystal wants me, whatever. I don't know what these situations look like. I really don't think these guys realize, at least the majority of them do not realize, that the only reason these girls are hitting them up like this excessively, like wanting to be with them, is because they've created a fake scenario that these girls don't realize is fake. These women are connecting themselves to a guy that the guy has painted for them. Like, the guy has painted an image for the woman based off of the things the woman has said, aka manipulation. So therefore, the woman is sold. It's kind of like a sales deal. It's just like a salesperson, and you're kind of waiting for, like, where in the contract you didn't read properly, and it's going to screw you over at some point. It's kind of like the iPhone. Every time we click I agree or whatever, I don't know, maybe it's just agree, and I'm just throwing the I agree because it's the iPhone. But like, we're selling our privacy, right? We're all being recorded, right? I don't care if you take off those settings that say, no, you cannot track me while I'm not using the app. Like, I do not care. I do not care. I've been saying this since the cable boxes. What are those called? Like Optimum here in New York, they took away. Okay, back in the 90s, we used to just have the TV and the remote control, okay? But then, I think it was the early 2000s, they said, no, you have to have the box now in your house. So now everybody who has cable has the box, and you have to have the remote lined up with it, and you can see the channels. You know what I don't know what this thing is called, but let's just call it the box, whatever. I'm convinced there's something in that thing that is recording you, whether it's a camera or a microphone. I've been saying this since I was like 12 or 13 years old. There's something to that. We'll see. Anyway, these guys who, Kylo, be quiet. These guys who have believe they have game, who come off as that they have game. They do, but it's like they're the cheater of the group, because they're not telling you that they have no intentions of really living up to the expectations that they created for you. Hold on one second. Kylo, stop. And it's not, see, this is the part where, like, as much as I'm this person that's like, you have to take accountability for the part you played, because it takes two to tango. The second you see the red flags and you decided to stay, that's on you at that point. And I agree. But where I feel like it's not your fault is if the guy went into it with bad intentions, evil intentions. If the guy went into it just to use you to get over somebody, or he just went into it to bang you, just to sleep with you. If he really had no intentions of keeping up with his word, whatever his words were, and you were buying it. It's like these guys, the guys who feel that have this big head, that are playing game, what they fail to realize is they feel like all these women are putting their time and energy into them. And yes, that's true, because they bought the book that they sold them. The men are not realizing that they invested time into these women, bought a book. It's kind of like a Disney book. You know how those old school Disney movies start, where it's like this big old book opens up, and this artsy font starts writing in the first page, and it goes, "Once upon a time in a far, far away land." Like, that is the guy investing in the book, in the fucking quill pen to write all the fancy letters. And then he's investing in a reader to read this to you out loud, to paint this picture to you. So it's funny. It's honestly, it's funny to me when these guys who think they got it like that because these girls act some kind of way, who are basically all up on their dick, they don't realize that the only reason they're up on their dick is because they sold them something that doesn't exist. But they invested their own time and energy. That's what, like, so the same things that the girls are doing, they're investing their time into, the guy. It's like these dudes already invested their time into the chick as well, except one of them, except one of their times expired already. And it's usually the guy, because the guy already got what he wanted. I hope this is all making sense, because to me it's making sense. The guy who plays game he's just playing. He's not a player, is my point. He is absolutely, positively not a player. And I feel like I could hear my dad, because I've spoken to him about this topic before. And the line is, don't hate the player, hate the game. When you play a game, you're supposed to play fairly, or you both are supposed to be playing the same game. You're both supposed to be going into it with honest and fair intentions. When one of you so sorry, so fucking sorry. That's so gross. I'm sorry. When one of you isn't, and we're talking about the guys who have bad intentions from the beginning or unsure intentions, okay? That's not a player. It's a cheater from the beginning. You know what I mean? And how do we feel if we take this whole dating game out of it? How do we feel about the cheaters who cheat in regular games in general? What do we do to those people? I'm dead fucking serious right now. Think about the Olympics. Yes, I am totally comparing this to the Olympics. I don't care. I'm an Aries. We're a little bit dramatic, but we make our fucking point, okay? Think about like the people who still play games with their friends and family, or drinking games. What do you guys do to the cheaters? Because we always have the friend who's a cheater. We always have the friend who's a cheater. They get disqualified because they're not taking the game seriously. And if you're both going into the dating game and you're both, here's another one. If you're both saying that your intention is this, that, and the other, and let's say it's serious intentions, but one of you is not being honest about it, that's not playing game. So I want the ladies out there to realize that, like, and I hope you guys already have realized, but these are not players. These are fucking losers. I have always said it, and this is why I call them this. And it's really not to put them down, but I know it is putting them down because because their mentality is loser-like. They really think so highly of themselves because they have Becky in their phone. They got Mariah in their phone. They got Anna in their phone. They got this, that, and the next. And it's like, oh my God, guys, you only have more than one woman in your phone because you invested time in a lie. You had to manipulate her because your personality on its own wasn't good enough. Now, let's go back to the beginning of this episode. Having game. Who has the game? The guy who is honest about his intentions from the very beginning, or when you ask him and he's honest about it and he can still get it. Those are the guys who still have game, because how do you not have game when Becky's in your phone calling you, when Anna's in your phone calling you, when, I don't know, when Sarah's in your phone, and they all know that you're not looking for a fucking relationship, you're not into them like that, but you can still get it. That is having game, because there are people out there who genuinely do not want to be in a relationship, and they're honest. They're even honest about it on the dating apps now, because you have an option to check this off. God bless those souls, because now they're giving you as the woman the choice to decide what it is you want to do. There's integrity there. You know what I mean? So it gives you the opportunity, can I separate my mind and my heart, especially if you're a relationship girl? So I I don't know if you guys have experienced this before. Now, hear me out. What I mean by this is, if you've experienced the guy who you've never had a relationship with, it was just hooking up with, and he told you it was just this, and therefore you could just respect it because you knew what it was. That guy has game. Not the on again, off again guy who plays mind games, mind tricks with you. And then at one point he's like, yeah, Clarice, I don't know if I can do this. I'm just not feeling. Like, not that guy. Fuck that guy. That fucking guy can go fuck himself. And he will, because he will have those lonely nights where the girls finally catch on to him, and then he's got to start it all over again. And it's like, my God, it's so sad because those guys don't realize they don't have enough confidence, enough security in themselves, although they usually come off as though they do, but they don't. It's false. It's fake security. It's not real. They don't believe in themselves enough to be honest with chicks, to be like, yeah, I literally don't know what the fuck is going on in my life, or I don't know what it is I want, or I don't think I could commit to you, but I could definitely sleep with you, or we can have a good time. And here's the thing about this kind of uncomfortable conversation. In my experience, it doesn't have to be so direct. And for somebody who is a very literal person, I don't understand sugarcoating. For this topic, I understand. It can be a very nice conversation. It can be said in a delicate way, and yet not so like, yeah, if you're down to fuck, like, we can do that. No, it doesn't have to be said like that. It could just be said like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It could be said like, I'm just not looking for that. Boom, right there. You know what it is. Right there at that point, especially because those guys, 9 out of 10 times, they're still going to hit you up to hang out. Well, guess what? You already know what it was because he just told you he's not looking. There's nothing to be confused about. I think also that's with some of these girls on social media when they make these videos. If you're confused, he's not interested. I think that's where... Hold on. Sorry. Story of my life. I think also that's where these girls get confused themselves, because if a guy just told them, yeah, I'm not looking for this, and then they hit him up a week later, I think some girls are just not seeing the straightforward message that is literally right in front of them. Because sometimes I think some people have trouble sugarcoating things, like, even though that's not sugarcoating to me. But if you look a little deeper in my own life, I can't decipher other messages. You see what I'm saying? Like, to me, if somebody tells me, oh, Sonny, I'm not looking for that, I'd be like, okay, got it. And a week later, this same guy hits me up. I know what it is. I know that we ended things on good terms, and that every time we hang out, it's a good fucking time. And why end it? If I'm able to separate my mind and my heart, and thank God this guy is able to give me that opportunity because he's being honest. He's not lying. He's not playing mind games. He's willing to risk it. You see the difference? Whereas the guy who plays game, he's insecure and he's not willing to risk giving up pussy because it doesn't come around that often for him. He can act as if it does. And if it did, let's just say if it does come around that often, then it's really just an insecurity issue at that point. Because there's no reason to lie to get it. You should be so confident with yourself that you should be able to tell a girl, listen, I'm not looking for this. Period. And then, let's say the girl who gets confused, okay, but I thought you just said last week you're not looking for this. All the guy has to say is, I'm not. And then she gets it. And then those guys are giving that girl the same opportunity to continue to move forward or not. At the same time, that guy is risking getting into, I guess, like, I don't want to say an emotional entanglement, because it wouldn't be on his part, more than likely. It would be on the girl's part, because she's now testing her self. Can I separate my mind and my heart? That's something the guy has to He has to kind of play that trust factor. He has to be willing to risk it. He has to at least give her the opportunity. Because you can't just make that emotional decision for a woman. You can't. And this is where the guys who play game, who are already emotionally immature, they make these emotional decisions for us. That is the craziest part of it all. And they don't look at it like that. They are literally making emotional decisions for us. Oh, no. She would never be able to separate the two. She'll get clingy. Some of them do. But it's better. But then deal with it. You then realize at that point, like, okay, no, she cannot separate the two. I will not hit her up again. I will not hit her up again for sex. I told her what it was. She couldn't deal. Now I know. Instead, these guys who play games, they'll just play mind games with you until they're done with you. Until they're done with your pussy. Like, really, like, seriously, that's what it is. Or let's be fair. There are the guys who go into this dating game who have good intent, but then things change, right? It's kind of like when you're interested in someone and then all of a sudden you're just not interested in them anymore. But again, this is where these guys make that emotional decision for us. They automatically either don't want to take responsibility for that shift in energy within themselves where they're not feeling us anymore. And they feel like we can't take it, or they just don't want to deal with the responsibility of the conversation, which to me also blows my mind as an Aries, because it's like everything's done through text these days, which goes to show you how much of a pussy the people that play game really are. Like everything about the playing game type of guy, they really have no fucking integrity. It's all just a bunch of bullshit. Like they really just can't deal with it. Yet they feel that they are mature enough they feel like they're psychic enough to make this future prediction for women out there. Like, no, she wouldn't be able to handle it. That I'm just not into her. It's almost also like they're at a loss for words. Like they don't know what to say. They don't know how to say it. Like, I'm not feeling you anymore. Like it's funny because they can think of all the words to say to get you into bed, but yet when it comes to cutting ties, it's I do believe that with some of them, they genuinely don't want to hurt your feelings. I do. But again, they're making that emotional decision, and these types of guys that are going under the category playing game are not emotionally stable, and they're not emotionally mature enough to make that decision, yet they are doing it. And then as like as a repercussion, I guess, or as a ripple effect, it's like it never ends up well. I think this is also what makes their head bigger, and they don't even realize it. When they don't tell girls what it is, by being emotionally immature, by these guys who play game, quote unquote play game, by making these emotional decisions, and these emotional decisions are, let's remind yourselves, it is, yeah, I'm not feeling it anymore, or yeah, I only wanted this for sex, or I don't know, whatever the reason is. They have made the decision in their mind that if they're honest about that, you will either A, act like a total psycho crazy bitch, or B, you may try to convince them to stay. C, maybe you'll leave them on red and their ego can't handle it. You see what I'm saying? Like they've literally thought it out, and they've made a decision based off of your potential emotional response. Meanwhile, these guys aren't emotionally mature enough to make these decisions for us. And also at the end of the day, I'm sorry to say, let's bring it back to the phone, like where we're at with technology. It's a text message. Like, we don't have to say it in such a, first off, like, we don't owe anybody anything, right? Like, we don't have to be detailed as fuck. Like, listen, I was just on the app for sex, or I was feeling you in the beginning, now I'm not, or I'm going back to my ex, or I got what I wanted. Like, I don't think as women that's what we're ever expecting. I think what we're expecting is respect. I think we're expecting, like, that energy that they're giving us in the beginning. It's like, where is that now? It's like, oh, it's gone because, as Steve Harvey would say, you gave away the cookie. You gave away the cookie. I hate to say it like this because I try to convince myself for years that this is not an issue, but it is. The cookie is sex, by the way. When you give away the cookie, because I've also had this conversation with friends where they totally disagree that there shouldn't be, they've called me a prude, like, oh, there shouldn't be a timing on it. There shouldn't be like, oh, by the third date, blah, 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 blah. I have learned time and time again that the second you fucking open your legs, I hate to say it like that, the whole energy changes. Obviously, right? Obviously. But so does their respect. So does their respect. Now, are they actually aware of it? I think to a certain degree, but I don't think they're aware as how far it goes for them. I really don't. I don't think they realize that it's kind of like that conquest, and they did it. And now it's like they're slowly but surely there's something about not taking you as seriously as they did before. There's something about just not showing up like they did before. And I don't care how good you are. I don't care. Because I could tell right now there'll be females in the future hearing this shit. Just like the topic of this episode, cocky guys, pretty much egotistical guys that live in imagination land. There's the same goes for women, where it's like, no, I got it like that. I had my man, blah, 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 on the first time. Like, shut up. Like, everybody has a different journey. Everybody has a different path at the end of the day. But I'm talking about general energy here. Like, more times than not, this is what happens. There's always a different story because we all have different lives. Okay. Sorry. I think when it comes to the guys who play game, there's a reason they know they can't be honest. But yet, if they were to just be honest, I guarantee you all those phone calls, let's say if they do get phone calls, which I doubt, all those text messages, it would go away. I guarantee you this is why they're not players. But the guys who have game, who are honest, don't play mind games, don't confuse you, don't trick you, tell you what the fuck it is. Those guys can get it. Those guys, I think these are the confident guys. These are the secure guys. These are the guys, and this may skeeve you guys out, and I really don't care because I'm not saying this is my thing because I'm not into it at all. But these are the guys who can go to different places with different women. 1 week, it's Becky. The next week, it's Sarah. The next week, it's so-and-so. And people wonder how he does it. I'm telling you right now, a majority, more times than not, that guy is not playing stupid fucking mind games. He's being open and honest. Now, if the girls, and I think everybody always assumes how a girl feels, which is insane to me. I think a lot of people assume about girls who are in situations like that. I think there are girls that do hope one day he'll realize it's her. And then I also know for a fact, that there are girls who stop it. Sorry, hold on. Stop it. There are girls, my dog. I've been friends with these girls that are literally just having fun. call it what you want. If you want to say, oh, they're just using the guy, because that's the other thing. The guys who have game, it's usually not just sex. Again, depends on your own situation, your own storyline, where you guys live. It could just be sex. It could be, especially if he's really good at it. But more times than not, it's usually an experience. There's usually something that goes along with it. Whether it's fine dining or traveling, doing something unexpectedly. I don't know how to explain it. There's just usually an experience that goes along with a guy who has game. Yes, more times than not, these guys have money. They do. Is this the reason, though, they can be honest and upfront? I think this is what gives a guy confidence. I mean, this is what gives humans in general confidence, is feeling secure. Their feet is on the ground because they are able to secure themselves financially. So yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. More times than not, the guys who have game do have money because they feel financially secure. It doesn't mean that they're buying these chicks things. Not all the time. Some of them are. But usually it's just an experience because these guys aren't fucking lame. That's also the difference. I forgot. That's also the difference between having game and playing it. The guys who play game, it usually ends up just being sex. They're so fucking lame at their style too. Like, it's like they don't have enough balls to tell you what it is. So they'll just show you by their actions. And I think we as women, when we have feelings for them or we like them, I think we're just thinking, we're just not trying to be those women who expect the world. I'm sorry, I'm just hearing like the old me and I'm like, oh, it's okay, Sonny. It's okay. But I feel like when we get ourselves into those situations, we don't want to come off as a woman who expects too much. And then we end up in these situations where these fucking lame ass guys are just cheap and they're pretty much just sleeping with you. But they're talking a big game, because let's not make ourselves sound like complete fools. Like, there's something that is keeping us in. There's something that's keeping us reeled in. Don't forget about that Disney book that these guys love to forget that they bought, love to forget that they invested their time and energy in and spent their money on. They love to make us seem fucking crazy. Like, she's wild about me. She's obsessed about me. It's like, my dude, it's because you bought the fucking book. You created this picture, and you sold us on a dream that didn't exist. We just didn't realize it then. We had to realize based off your actions, or no actions, we should say, right? But the guy who has game, he's usually inviting you somewhere. But again, you got to realize there's no relationship involved with this. But that's okay, because you're not mentally fucking confused. You're not stressed out. Your energy doesn't look like shit, because you're not like, is he gonna commit to me? Is he seeing other women? Like, you already know what it is. He probably is seeing other women. And that's okay, because you accept it, because you're having a good time and your options are open. There is just something so fucking different. And I love it, because the guys who play game, the cheaters, the manipulators, they know deep down about these guys who have game, and they try to belittle them about like, oh yeah, you're spending all your money, or you have to buy them. You have to pretty much like pay for sex. Like, that's a different situation. That is not the guys who have game. This is not the guys who have game, because the guys who play game, the cheaters, they're still spending money on you one way or the other. And they're still spending money in a different way. They're still spending currency. They spent their time on you, except it was all for show. And they don't know how to speak up. They don't know how to do it. Like, if you have this conversation with them, they'll say, yes, I do. I just didn't want to have it with you. And it's like, but what, you would have rather kept it going where there is where there's just confused people out there continuing this dialogue of confused energy because they don't know what's going on, which again brings you back to the big head, because usually we reach out to these guys, especially once they start getting colder on us. We're like, what the fuck? Weren't we just in their warm bed yesterday? You know, and it's like now we're getting the cold shoulder, and we're left confused as to why, because they didn't have the fucking huevos, the balls to say it. Because they like to cheat the system. They like to cheat the game. You know why? Because they like the easy way out. They don't like to play the straightforward way, because the straightforward way takes balls. You actually have to have real confidence. And if they were to have that conversation with themselves, could they do this? They'll lie to themselves. They'll lie to themselves and say, yeah, I could. I just didn't want to. That's a fake conversation that they have with themselves. It's all fucking ego. You see the difference? If you have real confidence, you can just be real. You don't have to avoid people. You don't have to avoid conversations. You don't have to be childish. Like, that's another insane part about like technology. I feel like being in my 30s, it's like you would think at this stage of the game that people don't have a problem saying what it is. Like, you can literally just say like, yeah, I don't think it's working out. Or it's like, I think that's actually too much for guys. I don't know, but I'm sure there's a way of creating a dialogue that men can potentially feel comfortable with. You know what I mean? Like, because since they're good at lying, right? I think my line to guys, like when I'm not feeling them anymore, is like, yeah, I think I'm just enjoying being single. Like, that's what I tell them. I think I'm just going to do this. Like, I usually say something like that. They can figure things out like that, but they don't want to put the time or energy into it because they don't want to put the time or energy into you anymore. You see what I mean? That respect factor is gone now, but they would have put the time and energy into you in the very beginning. I think also what happens is, are you guys attracted to these people? Because when we're attracted to them, we give them so much more credit than we should, because it's like, what was really there at the end of the day? Do you ever do that? Like, I always think about that with my exes, and I don't want to really talk about it here, but it's just like, you take a step back and you're like, oh my God, what was I thinking? What was the, you know? But the guys who have game, I don't feel that way. When I think back, I'm like, no, they're cool. Excuse me. There's just something about honesty that you have to respect. You have to, whether you like it or not, whether it didn't manifest in the way you wanted it to or not. You got to respect it, because it could have gone down another path. So I think it's almost like this too. If you're like, when I think of a sales guy, I think of like somebody selling cars. I cannot stand those people. They are so fucking annoying. I tell them right from the beginning, right when they jump down my throat, hey, if I'm interested in a car, I'll come find you. What's your name? I even ask them what their name is, so they know, don't worry, I won't give their sale to another guy. I just want them to know, like, please, for the love of God, let me just look freely. Let me look around. And then when the time comes, I always ask, like, is everything okay with this vehicle? If a sales guy can tell me everything that's wrong with this vehicle and I still buy it, that's a pretty fucking impressive sales guy, is he not? Now, what about the sales guy that's got to lie to me in order to get the sale? That's not impressive. Anybody can fucking do that. Even you guys can do that. Let's take out dating. We can literally lie and manipulate anything, really, in order to get what we want in life. But usually something stops us if we don't do this, right? It's usually our morals. It's usually thinking about karma, the repercussions of our actions. But these people who play game, they're usually selfish human beings that don't really ultimately... I'm looking at my cat and dog. I'm sorry. They're doing the most cutest things right now to each other. I love them so much. Anyway, what was I saying? It's not hard to get what you want out of life if you're constantly lying and manipulating to people. And that's what guys are doing. So please, if anyone is out there giving these guys credit, and what I mean by that is calling them players, they're not players. Players sounds like, even though it's got a negative thing to it, it also kind of sounds positive, right? It sounds like they're wanted. It sounds like they're valuable. And it's like, sit your ass down. You are not wanted. You are not valuable. Because if everybody were to know your true colors, you are literally sitting on the fucking sidelines. You are sitting on the bench. You're a bench warmer. You're not the MVP. You're not. But these guys, they think they're the MVP because they like to block out the part they played in the story, in the dialogue. They just like to focus in on the energy where they look like the superhero. And what I mean by superhero is everybody wants them. Well, why does everybody want you? Or why do you think everybody wants you? Let's say it like that. You know what I mean? Like, oh God, please, like, just, what could we call these guys? The guys who play game. Because the guys who have game, we honor these guys because not everybody in this life is going to be in a relationship. Not everybody's going to get married. Not everybody wants that. And it needs to be respected. Even if you fall for these individuals, if they're honest about it. But for the guys who gotta lie to get pussy, who can't be their real authentic selves, that's so sad. Like, I know, and I'm sure the people who are listening to this, these ladies, I'm sure you know your personality is good enough. Like, it, beautiful. But what's sad is on the other side of the spectrum, to actually have empathy for these guys, right? Because we have to, as humans, have a heart. We cannot be cold and callous and be like, you know, fuck these guys. Because these guys, the reason these guys turn into these types of guys is because of what I'm saying, insecurity. There's something lacking. Listen, I'm serious. There's something lacking in their personality, and they know that. Or they don't believe in their personality. Whether it's they're very smart, but they don't believe they're smart. They're really funny, but they don't believe they're funny. They believe they're going to make it in life, but they haven't done it yet. You know, whatever it is, it's like when they play the game, because playing the game is playing fairly. The whole don't hate the player, hate the game, that's a cheating game. That is literally a cheater's mentality, okay? Excuse me. It's not accurate. Only insecure people hurt other people. And I think I'm just going to leave it at that. You're not, and if you hurt people, you're not going to go into something as a confident person with bad intentions. Only people who are not confident do that. And if you don't get that, then you're not confident. You're not there yet. And yeah, so please do not give these guys any fucking credit. They just need to still work on themselves. That's it. All right, I'm sending you guys so much love and so much food for thought. All right, bye.